In this video, we're going to do a quick refresher of unemployment. The first question just asks who is employed and what are the requirements. So pretty simple. To be employed or to count as employed, you have to have worked at least 1 hour for pay in the last week. And if you did that, then you counted as employed. And that's all it takes to be employed. Everything else doesn't really matter for that purposes. Who is unemployed? So the first prerequisite would be to not be employed. That would be, you cannot be both, right? It's really important. And you must have actively sought work. That means like put in applications, gone for interview, that kind of thing, in the last 4 weeks. And so those are the two basic requirements to be unemployed. If you didn't actively seek work, or if you didn't, if you maybe sought work 5 weeks ago, but not in the last 4 weeks, then you're no longer unemployed. The labor force is the employed plus the unemployed. And so the other requirements would be here that if you're in the labor force, typically we would say that you are 16 and up, you are not institutionalized, right? Not, then that would be like not in the military, not in prison, not in school, and that you are able and willing to work. And we can kind of just generally say that that is also true of being unemployed. That just because typically we'd actually say that these are true for all of these statements. How's the unemployment rate calculated? It is the number of unemployed divided by the labor force. So it's the ratio, basically, of the unemployed people to the labor force. Discouraged workers are people who stopped looking for work in the last 12 months, but haven't looked in the last 4 weeks. And let me actually, I screwed up here. Who were looking for work in the last 12 months and haven't looked in the last 4 weeks. So in other words, these are people who, and I'm going to add one more thing to this. These are people who maybe looked for a job 6 months ago, but haven't looked in the last 4 weeks. And they stopped because they couldn't find work. So the only reason they stopped looking was because they didn't have any jobs available. Marginally attached are the same as discouraged, except they stopped for any reason at all. So it includes all the discouraged workers. And let's kind of be clear here that even though we call them marginally attached workers, discouraged workers, they're not actually workers, right? They're not working. So they're unemployed people, but they aren't meeting the definition of unemployed. So because they do not meet the definition, they do not count in UE rate. And the same goes here. They do not count in the UE rate. And so that's an important point that sometimes we'll see like the number of people who are marginally attached increase because a whole bunch of people maybe dropped out of the labor force. And that actually causes the unemployment rate to go down. And so we might think if we didn't look too closely that things are all hunky-dory when in fact lots of people are not getting work. So here's a kind of simple question. If workers who are laid off do not seek new employment, are they counted as unemployed? Nope, because they aren't looking for new jobs. Now, then there's a little bit more about types of unemployment and then something called the natural rate that we'll wrap up with. Frictional unemployment and structural and cyclical are the three types of unemployment. And so frictional is temporarily being between jobs. So you quit, you were fired, you were laid off, and laid off for general reasons, not because the economy is doing badly or anything. Maybe you just graduated from college or high school or what have you. It's the normal type of unemployment is what we would say here. Then structural unemployment is unemployment caused by having greater quantity supplied of workers than quantity demanded of workers. And that can happen if there's something structurally kind of causing the number of people who are willing and able to do a job in a certain labor category to exceed the number of people that employers want to hire. An example of that would be like in coal mines. There are tens of thousands of people in the United States. Example, coal mines. There are tens of thousands of people who were working in coal mines in the United States who are willing and able to supply their labor, but there really isn't that great of quantity demanded of workers in that circumstance anymore. Another example would be retail with high minimum wages. Maybe you have a very high minimum wage causing a large quantity supplied of workers, but not so much in terms of quantity demanded. Cyclical unemployment is, let me go back and fix something there, is unemployment caused by the business cycle, hence the name. And so we'd say recession. So right now, as I record this, the United States has, I think it has an unemployment rate of around 15%. That's pretty high, and a lot of that is caused by the business cycle. It's caused by a recession. And so we have the highest unemployment rate since we started recording, actually. So natural rate is structural plus frictional, and that's equal to the natural rate. It's considered the normal or full employment level. And an important observation is that it's not zero, right? Not zero. It's normal to have a little bit of unemployment in the economy. Not normal to have 15%, but then it says if the natural rate of unemployment is 5, actual is 2. What's the cyclical? Or actual is 7, the cyclical is 2. And again, we're just kind of seeing the difference between the two. So hopefully this helps you with unemployment.